Come on in, Facebook. Come on in. 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 Facebook family. God bless you today. Amen. This is your host, Apostle Dr. Sylvester Paul Brinson III. Another week, and God has kept us and has blessed us, and we are alive and well. And we thank God for his power. We thank God for his peace. We thank God for his blessings and wisdom. We're so glad that you that are watching us, whether you are watching us live today or you're watching us later on our timeline, or you have tuned in to our channel on YouTube. We are just thankful that the power of the Holy Spirit keeps us moving and functioning. Well, today, as all days, every week, we come and share the Sunday school lesson on today. And we just had a great time earlier. And our Sunday school lesson today, our theme deals with little faith and doubting. So I want to read the passage today, coming from our international Sunday school lesson. Those of you that studied with us every week, we just thankful for you that are studying with us. And out of the Townsend Press commentary today, I wanted to read a couple of things as a sentence around the lesson today. And our lesson comes from Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 to 33. Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 to 33. I want to read out of the King James Version for you. And we're going to read the narrative from the New Testament according to the book of Matthew. And then from there, we're going to share. Is that all right? Okay, come on. Let's listen to the words of the text. And straightway, Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him into the other side while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves from the wind, for the wind was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, that's like from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, Jesus went unto them walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they was troubled, saying, "It is a spirit." And they cried out for fear. But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, "Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid." And Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it is you, bid me come unto thee on the water." And he said, "Come." And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, saying, "Lord, save me." And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, "O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt?" And when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased. And they that were in the ship came and worshipped him, saying, "Of a truth, thou art the Son of God." So our lesson today, Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 to 33. This is the the background scripture of our lesson on why do you doubt? Why do you doubt? Doubt and fear. Wow, this is quite a creative story. Matthew tells this story. This is the second story that Matthew tells about Jesus dealing with being on the water, being on the sea, that Jesus takes control of the situation. I wanted to point out a couple of things out of the lesson today as I looked at the commentaries as we shared today with our class via our conference call, and we were just looking at certain motifs and principles and things that we find in this story. So one of the things that we must understand is that here in today's lesson that Peter demonstrates for us absolute trust in Jesus, only to see it, go down and get doubt comes in the middle, and wow, he started looking around, and then he starts sinking. One of the things I begin to look at in this story, because there's so much in the story that we talked about it today. I said, sometimes people, when they read the story, they stay preoccupied in that Peter, he doubted and he starts sinking. But I want to backtrack and go back to look at Peter from another angle. Others said to me, and the Apostle Brent said, Peter was crazy. They wasn't going to bother him, because my question was, okay, now let's take a look at it. If Jesus is discovered that this person walking on the water is looking at it from that standpoint, Apostle Jerome, if Jesus is walking on the water and the disciples realize it's Jesus walking on the water, now let's go back and let's look at the environment. So the environment was frustrating. The environment was in crises. Jesus says to his disciples, I need you to get on the boat and meet me on the other side. Meet me. Go. I need you to go to the other side. Meet me on the other side. Now, so it said that Jesus commanded them. He charged them to go to the other side ahead of him. So if he told them to go to the other side ahead, they were on their way. According to the text and according to the narratives and those scholars and others that delineate within the text, they say that the wind was so rough that for 9 hours, they guesstimated it was 9 hours that they were out there on that sea trying to make it to the other side, and they only had kind of gained just half of the mileage that they needed to be. So technically, the time that it took them to get on the other side had passed. It didn't take 9 hours to get to the other side. And yet they had spent 9 hours rowing and tussling with the wind as professional sailors to get to a place that didn't take 9 hours. And they were still at it in the process. So I see that point as faith. So I want to say maybe faith interrupted with Jesus, but Jesus told them, commanded them to go to the other side. And they were on their way, obeying Jesus. They had seen Jesus do, they was in obedience to Jesus. But in the obedience to Jesus, they were in a crisis, obeying Jesus to go on over to the other side where he was going to meet them. Now, the other question is, based upon the situation, when Jesus said, I need you all to get in this boat and go over and go to the other side, I'm going to meet you. They didn't ask the question, well, I wonder how Jesus, you going to meet us on the other side. So where's your boat? Where's your boat, Jesus? How you going to get there? They just obeyed him. Sometimes we need to obey God without asking so many questions. So I still see in the positive note that, one, the disciples obeyed Jesus. Peter, even though he started sinking, he did obey and follow through the command of come. So the disciples are rowing 9 hours on a task to go in obedience to Jesus to meet him on the other side. Go on over there and I'll be there. And yet the storm and the crises prevented them to accomplish what they had said to accomplish within a time frame. How many of you sometime find yourself in obedience to God and you said, okay, God told me to do this, God told me to do that, Sister Laura, God told me to do this and this and this, and I know I can accomplish it within a certain time frame. And so you find yourself in this project in obedience to what God has told you within your mindset. It's within a given time frame that you expect, and then the unexpected comes up, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation that is hard put, that took more time, and it's still taking more time than you thought you was going to put in it. Well, God, I was obedient. You told me to get on the boat. You told me and all the disciples, the 12, you said, hey, get on the ship, get on this boat, meet me on the other side. So, hey, okay, all right, we'll meet you there. We're going to take this trip and we're going to get to the other side. And then when you start the trip, oh, here comes something unexpected. Here comes the wind. The wind was contrary, meaning that now the wind is not cooperating, because Sister Evangelist Brenda Smith, if I knew I was going to go to the other side and I'm an expert shipman, I know if I set the sail at a certain angle, the wind is going to blow and help us as we roar to the other side. But now, based upon us trusting the wind to get us where we got to go, the wind ain't cooperating. How many of us find ourselves in situations where God gives us a directive and we say, yes, Lord, and the very things that we expect ourselves, Minister Karen, the very thing that we expect to cooperate with us in the process according to the plan that we have put in place in our obedience is now not cooperating with us. Oh, meet me on the other side. Come on, y'all, fishermen. Some of them were expert fishermen. Come on, let's get on the boat. Jesus said he's got something to do. Meet him on the other side. So we going. They assumed everything was going to be cool. Everything going to be straight. They were fishermen and they were sailors. So they already understood it's going to take these many hours to get where we got to go. Now we out here in the process and obedient to a command. Jesus say, I think, what y'all think? Why don't y'all just meet me on the side? No, Jesus commanded them and said, look, I need you all to get up out of here because I got some things to do. I need you all to go and other side. All right, we gone. There's an expectation. Sometimes Jesus comes into our lives and the Holy Spirit gives us a command, and there's an expectation, and we, because of our experience with a matter or thing and understanding, we got it all figured out how it's going to work and how we going to do this in the time frame. Then we get into the process, and we find out this ain't working like I thought it was going to work. But you know what I got to give it to the disciples? They kept in it anyway. 9 hours into the situation, and they still hadn't covered much ground, but they were still going forward. Sometimes you have to learn that you cannot go backwards to be in obedience to the project, because the answer is in the front of you. Jesus said, I'm going to meet you on the other side. So if Jesus is going to meet them on the other side and the wind got contrary, if they turned around and started going back, they still got the fight going back contrary. And if they went back, Jesus is not there. Oh, now I'm caught in a catch-two situation. I'm obeying God. The storm of crisis is coming to my life. He's giving me objective in the place of where I got to go in a sense of direction, that's where he gonna meet me at. And then there's a storm. I want to retreat and go back. Maybe I got a time to go back. But if I go back in the storm, I won't see Jesus. So I got to continue in the storm no matter how much it didn't say in the story, it didn't say the disciples said, well, we tired, y'all. We tired. We just gonna drop anchor and go with the flow. We just gonna let the roll your boat. No, we just gonna all this wind and stuff. We gonna take ourselves out and just see where it go. And when it cool down, we'll pick up from where we left off, Jesus. But right now, we going on a sabbatical. We gonna go to the side, but not right now. We gonna do what you say, but right now we gonna be resting because it's hard right now. It's too much wind, too much stuff going on right now. Oh, that sounds familiar to some of y'all. God said, I want you to do this and this, Evangelist Porter, and you excited, and you start into sudden all this. Well, just wait a minute, God, too much stuff going on. So maybe, just maybe, because of all the stuff going on, you trying to tell me, maybe God didn't tell me to go. We start questioning our assignments when things come up in our lives that makes us like struggle. And we find out every time I try to push, I get a push back. I got to keep going through this. And if God told me to do something, it's supposed to be smooth, Doc. Come on, Doc. If God told me to do this, hallelujah. I rebuke you, Satan. It's going to be smooth. I shouldn't have to go through all these changes. So maybe God ain't told me to do it because there's too many changes I got to go through. No. Sometimes the changes is a part of the process. Some of you all need to write down the question you asked the question. Did I trust the process? Can you trust the process? This week, I was watching Sunday. Joel Osteen was on, and he was talking, preaching, sharing. His thing was centered around trusting God's process. Can you trust the process? The disciples was trusting the process because the story opens up in Matthew with his disciples still fighting to get where they had to go. Still rowing hard against the wind. The wind was contrary, but in the midst of the wind being contrary, they continued the journey. How many of us, you that are watching me right now, how many of you will still continue the fight in the journey in the midst of the crises that arise that you did not expect? God, I did not expect this. I'm obeying you. You know what you told me. I believe you. I count it done. Hallelujah. Amen. And I'm going to continue. No matter how hard it is, I'm going to meet you on the other side. I'm committed. It's taking longer than what I thought, but I'm going to continue the process. That's where the disciples were. That was their mindset, continuing the process. Now, in the continuation of the process, Jesus comes walking on the sea to meet them. Isn't that something that Jesus meets us in our process? He assigns us an assignment. Start the process. In the midst of the process comes the turmoil and the chaos and those things that may question the process. But if you stay the process, some of you all, if you look back over your life and think things over, as the songwriter said, you have to say, God has blessed me. And when I wanted to give up, I trusted the process. Sometimes the process is not what you like. The process is not what you desire. The process is not what you expect. The process is the unexpected. But can you trust the process? The miracles happen in the process. So Jesus comes walking on the waters early in the morning, right just before dawn, right before the sun shines, in the darkest of night, after midnight, 3 hours later, in the last and the fourth watch, here comes Jesus. They thought it was a ghost. They thought it was a spirit. They cried out in fear. Sometimes as we trust the process, the things that God sent to us as we see it from the beginning, sometimes we become afraid of that because we don't understand that. How many of us have found ourselves involved in situations, circumstances that come to us while we are in the process? I am trusting the process, but there is a person, a place, or a thing that's scary. Doc, that's scary. I don't understand it. Jesus says, you don't have to fear. You don't have to be scary about this situation in the process. You don't have to be scary about an encounter in the process, because I'm a part of that encounter. So Jesus said, it's I, be not afraid. You do not have to be afraid in the midst of a crisis, in your obedience to Christ, if you are in the process, because if you can trust the process, God says to you, Jesus says, don't get afraid. This is a part of the process. In fact, it's me. It's you. Is you? Oh, so you mean is you looking like that, God? You got a part of it? Yeah, it's me. It's me. It's me in the process. You're obedient. You're moving toward my command. I hasten my word to perform it. It don't look good. It don't feel good. Now it's threatening, and you are afraid of what's out there because it's at night and you can't hardly see. And now things are looking, it looks like a ghost or a spirit, but it's really me. Sometimes we call ghost spirit, and sometimes we call the devil, and we call negative is positive. Some things we look at bad is evil, is not. It's good. So he said, be not afraid. Don't fear. I don't need you to fear. I don't want you to fear. I don't want you to fear. Somebody said, fear is F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real. Well, this wasn't no false evidence appearing real. This was real evidence appearing false. Real evidence. Jesus was real on his way to meet them. He was real. But the falsity of the reality of the realness was they thought it was a spirit or a ghost. What things that hit you in life that are real, but given the surrounding situations, the storms is out there, they have been probably cold and wet and working for 9 hours in fatigue, and they look out there and can't hardly make it out because there's no sun, there's no flashlight, and this thing that's moving looks like a spirit, but what it looks like was not. It's, as they say, it ain't what it looks like. No. It ain't. But what it was, the reality of what it was, the interpretation of the reality was false. So that's where you have your false evidence appearing real, because the evidence was false in their minds, but the reality of the evidence was real. It was real, Sister Ann. It was real. It was real. How many situations in our lives that are real, but because of the surroundings, what we went through and are going through, it appears something else. But yet in the midst of that, we hear the voice of Jesus saying, it's me. I got something to do with that. Cool out, chill out. It's I. Be not afraid. In the midst of the struggle, in the midst of the commotion, in the midst of the turmoil of the sea, Jesus' voice is heard to say, what you see is what I am doing. What you see, I am doing. Yes, you see this figure moving across the waters. It's me, not a spirit. Now, see, Peter is the kind of person people say, well, Peter crazy person. We brought that up when Peter said, well, Lord, if that's you, bid me come to thee on the water. If that's you, let me read that again. Let me read how Matthew put it. It says, but straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, be of good cheer. It is I, be not afraid. Cheer up. Hey, y'all. You got enough fighting the storm. You got enough dealing with the wind and the waves. Hey, don't be adding this to it. Cheer up. Keep on rowing, but cheer up. We're going to make it to the other side, but it's I, be not afraid. And Peter answered him and said, if it be thou, if that's you, bid me come unto thee on the water. Peter said, if that's you, bid me, invite me, command me. If it's you, command me, invite me to come on the water to meet you as you walk on the water. Just like you walking on the water to come, invite me to come. Wow. 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 That's something, isn't it, Peter? Somebody said Peter's always running his mouth, but hey, he was more than running his mouth. I mean, I would have, as somebody said today in the class, I just waited till Jesus came, got on in the boat. I just okay with Jesus. That you walk on the water. Well, come on and get in this boat and do something about this wind, because this is the second story. The other story talked about Jesus got up from his sleep and rebuked the wind. So here Jesus again, hey, come on in the boat. Come on, we'll wait till you get here. We gonna keep on pushing till you hallelujah, till you come on in. Peter said, no, I want to go to you and come back with you. Bid me to come to thee on the water. Peter had enough creativity to say, in the midst of the storm, in the midst of the crises, since you come, Jesus, walking on top of what was called in the crises, bid me to come. It said, and then Peter got out the boat. Now, walk with me this story now. See this story with me. The boat is being tossed to and fro. The wind is blowing, the waves is blowing. I mean, it's going, and it's dark. It ain't morning yet. It's like in 3 o'clock in the morning, between 3 and 6 in the morning, somewhere in there early in the morning, when you can hardly see. Peter's talking about, let me come to you on the water. So whatever he saw, he couldn't make out. They could not make out that it was Jesus. They thought it was a ghost. And so when Peter heard the voice, he said, well, I want to come. I want to come. I want to come. I want to come in your direction. So bid me to come. Peter gets out of the boat. Now, I was talking to some of my students today. We was on talking about Peter getting out the boat. Peter getting out the boat and started walking on the water. Now, people, ministry, a lot of people are competitive now. Some folks say, well, they did that miracle, I could do that, I could do that. So I asked my class today, I said, what strikes me is that when Peter said, Lord, bid me come, and got out the boat, how come no other disciples said, me too, God? I want to go. Peter, you gonna go? You ask God, could you walk on the water? Well, I want to go too. Because people, they are very competitive now. You know that ain't nobody else said me too. So some of my students said, no, Peter was crazy. Everybody knew Peter was crazy. And let Peter go walk on that water. I said, well, no, I want to know, because they used to argue who's going to be the greatest in the kingdom. Sit on left hand and right hand. Peter volunteers. They say, bid me to come to you on the water. No other disciple said me too. Me too. In fact, there was no Me Too committee yet. But me too. I want to go. Peter, you going to walk? Well, I'll walk with you. How many volunteers do you get from people in life and in ministry that's willing to volunteer with you on a new act of faith that is creative? Brother John Brown, how many? Who will go with you in this trust factor of walking on water? Well, Peter was an opportunist. Peter, Well, maybe he was opportune. Nobody else in the boat said that. Peter got out. Now, you got to deal with the fact, if the boat is rocking, look at it, the boat is rocking back and forth. The waves is up and down, up and down. So Peter has to manage the chaos. Oh, now don't mess with me now. In the midst of the chaos, in the midst of the storm, Peter has to manage a move in the midst of the storm. Now, he could have just said, we've been rowing for 9 hours out here. But I'm tired. Look, Jesus, we glad to see you. We'll wait for you to come on to the boat. Shoot. Maybe something happened. Peter said, well, let me come to you. That means, Peter, you got to navigate the wind and the shaking and the rocking in the boat. You got to get out the boat. Now, we always so, but Peter had little faith. But wait a minute, Peter had some, his little faith has some bold moves in it. because he had to navigate the rocking and the moving of the waves of the wind to get out of the boat. The boat didn't say, the wind didn't say, okay, we're going to stop blowing and let Peter get out the boat. And when Peter get out the boat, we're going to start blowing again. No, in the midst of the vicissitude, in the midst of the problem, God changed his altitude. His aptitude got changed to put him on another altitude to see that he was on another level. Yeah, Peter was high that day. He was high on Jesus. Well, he had another altitude. Sometimes God has to change your altitude by rearranging your attitude in the midst of your vicissitude. And then out of that comes a demonstration of his magnitude. So then you can have a gratitude. Okay. There, you met the Tube family today. So therefore, so Jesus comes out of solitude. He comes in the midst of their vicissitude. And in the midst of the vicissitude, the attitude changes because they realize that it is Jesus. So the attitude changes. Out of the attitude changes, Peter gets a different kind of information from an attitude to an aptitude. His information changes, his aptitude changes, and that takes him to a higher altitude because now Peter got to be high to want to get out the boat and get on the water. So he gets on the water, and he meets the magnitude of the winds and the waves. But he's walking. Now, wait a minute. Peter is actually walking on the water. So Peter navigated the crises. In the midst of the crises, he's still in movement. His movement changed from the rocking of the boat to walking on top of the chaos that is caused by the boat being rocked because Jesus is coming that way and he's on his way out to meet Jesus. How many of us is on our way out to meet Jesus in the midst of the chaos that Jesus is on his way to meet us? And so it says that Peter began then to see the results of the wind, that which he navigated to get to Jesus. He begins to identify and evaluate. Sometimes you can't evaluate what you navigate if you are in a crisis. See, God gives us the wisdom and the strength to navigate in our crises. And as we start navigating our crises, we evaluate the crises because out of the situation that we're in, and also sometimes we have to prove to ourselves and others. Because Peter left the group of disciples that now is not afraid. They of good cheer because they know it was Jesus. So in fact, their attitude changed. It's Jesus, so we can just wait for him to join us in the boat. Peter said, no, let me meet you, and then we'll come on back to the boat. So he makes a step of faith that the other disciples didn't take, and he navigates the situation. But in navigating the situation of the winds, he started evaluating that which he navigated. Now, sometimes you don't need to be evaluating what you do. Well, no, God's giving me a miracle. God is working things out. Okay, let's leave it there. God is working things out. Now we're trying to figure out, well, I wonder how God is working this out. Because this, and this, and this. And now when we start evaluating, we got to do something. We got to begin to think about what the situation is, how bad it is, and what's going on and what's involved in it. And now we become preoccupied in the surroundings. We become preoccupied in the evaluation of what we are navigating. And when we evaluate that which we are navigating, if it's in the miracle process, it's like mind-boggling. I'm walking on this water. I'm walking on the water. So Peter, in the midst of Peter demonstrating an absolute trust in Jesus, and man, this is something, all of a sudden doubt comes in. Doubt comes in because doubt came as a evaluation of an incident. So, doubt is not always a sin because every believer struggles with some point in your life. You struggle with understanding and comprehending what God is doing in your life. So sometimes you don't understand. Sometimes in your struggle, you can't comprehend. But sometimes in your comprehension, your reality is not correct now because you see the situation and you see the reality. But then in the midst of the reality, you keep saying, I can't believe it, John. I can't believe it. Karen, I can't believe it. Brenda, come on, Linda. Come on, Jerome. I can't believe this is true. I can't believe this is happening. You mean God, you preoccupied. And so what happens? You lose focus. You need to tell yourself, hey, get back on focus. Get back on focus. When you step out of focus, it leaves doubt. When you step out of focus, you lose the sharpness of where you were going. So Peter, he cries out, Lord, save me. So he had to be close to Jesus in the process. He had to almost be there because it said, and Jesus reached out his hand. Jesus reached out his hand. So how close was he? It didn't say, and Jesus' arm, hallelujah, it grew out 6 feet. And the Lord grew his arm out and snatched Peter out. No, it said he reached out and grabbed Peter. So that means he was an arm reach. Peter was an arm reach from his destiny. Sometimes we can get that close and get to be contemplative in our evaluation of the process and almost there, but yet not good enough. Almost there, going through the process. We're trusting the process to the almost there. Almost there, but not there, but almost there, but not there. But in the midst of the process, we allow our evaluation and situations to overcome us. And we lose our faith and we doubt and we lose the faith we had that started us out in the process. Look at verse 30. It says, Peter 29, verse 29, Matthew chapter 14, verse 29. And it says, Peter replied, tell me to come to you. Jesus said, come. Okay, if Jesus told him to come, Peter had to trust the process that he was going to come, not drown, coming. See, we ask Jesus something, Jesus say come. That means when he say come, within his come is a completion that you came. Oh, come on. You know, we was in English and Delancian, it says, come, came, come. Come, came, have come. Come, came, has come. So when Jesus say come, you got to look back that you had come or you have come, but in the have come was came. What happened when you was in your came? I came to Jesus. I was in process of my came, and I stayed the game of my came till I could look back and say, I came, I come. I have come now. I've come now because in the midst of my come was came. I was in the process, but came. I came to Jesus. I mean, I look back over. I came over some things. I came through some things. I came through the storm. I walked on top of the storm. I walked on top of the waters. In the midst of the wind, I participated. I experienced the wind. I heard the wind. I saw the wind's effects. I heard the wind and I saw the effects. My hearing and my sight came together and my mind and the thought process evaluated what I was hearing and seeing. And boy, I lost it. It said he came. When he came out of the ship, it says he walked on the water to go to Jesus. How many of you are actually coming out your boat, walking on the water? You walking on the water, coming, and then your came is coming. Jesus said, come. So you say, okay, I'm coming. I'm coming. I'm going to do what you do. I'm coming because you said come, I'm coming. But now I got to look around and say, wow, this is what I'm coming through. Don't let your coming through deter you from coming. Oh, that'll preach. Don't let your coming through deter you from coming. So when Peter, when he saw the wind boisterous, he saw the wind, he evaluated the effects of the wind. It was boisterous. Well, the wind was boisterous when he was in the boat. The wind hadn't changed because Peter was walking. Your situation sometimes don't change because you believe God and step out of the boat you in, but you still in what your boat is in, you're walking on top of. Ain't that something? What your boat is in, you are now walking on top of. So the wind that was rocking the boat that you was in is rocking you, but you are walking on top. He was afraid. It said when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid and beginning to sink. The beginning of the sinking is when you evaluate and you become afraid. Your evaluation leads you to be afraid. It said he was becoming afraid. It said he was afraid. It didn't say, well, I'm getting ready to look like I'm going to be scared. I might get scared. No. He was scared. Scared. He was scared. He was, no, he had become afraid and beginning to sink. He cried, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore did thou doubt? And when they had come into the ship, the wind ceased. Now, wait a minute now. Let's exegete that a little bit. Let's break that up a little bit. Peter experiences walking on the waters after he navigated coming out of the boat. He takes his eyes off by looking at his surroundings. He starts to sink. Jesus picks him up, reaches out his hand, and picks him, catches him. But guess what? He still has to navigate back to the boat. So we can't throw Peter away now, because the blessing of the miracle was that now him and Jesus together, Peter gets another chance of walking on the water with Jesus back to the boat. So if you fall, get up. If you was on your way to Jesus and you start sinking and you called out to him and he caught you, he says, okay, let's continue to do this. You was walking on the water. Let's walk again on the water. Now that I have you in my hand and when we're together now, we're going to walk back through this crisis with me, with you. Even though I was with you from the beginning saying, come to me. Now we are here. I have picked you up and saved you. Now let's go back let's understand that I saved you in the midst of your crises. I didn't save you out of your crises, and you are still in the crises, having been saved. Now, since I've saved you in your crises, in the midst of the wind blowing all over you and rocking your boat and rocking everything, we're going to still prove to the wind that he can't take me out. The process says if I stay the process, I still overcome. And I get a chance to walk back to the boat on the water. So Peter got a chance to walk back to the boat on the water, y'all. And then when they got in the boat, it says the wind ceased. Now, Jesus could have said, oh, Peter, you almost drowned. So, since you almost drowned, I'm going to speak to the winds. The winds, y'all, come on now. All that stuff that Peter went through and y'all almost made him drown and lose it. Y'all stop. Y'all leave him alone right now. And so we can get on in this boat, come on back to the boat in peace. Now, Jesus says, I'm going to give you peace in the midst of the storm. I'm going to catch you in your storm, give you peace and support you while in the storm, and then let you walk back through your storm on top of what causes the storm till you get back in the boat. You navigated getting out the boat in the storm. So I'm going to give you the power to navigate getting back in your boat in the storm. And when you navigate getting back in your boat in the storm, then I'm going to quit. Then I'm going to stop the storm. Huh? We want God to stop the storm because we almost see God almost fail. So you got to come through right now. LaRon Matthews, apostle, you got to come through right now, because you know what? I was walking on this water and I got sidetracked. But I mean, you got to understand, I'm just human. I evaluated my process, and in the evaluation of my process, I became overwhelmed of my evaluation. And so faith sometimes has to, believe in the midst of an evaluation. And I almost sunk, but I almost sunk almost at the finish line of coming to you. So you picked me up by the hand. So now I'm here. You said, come, and I came, and now I'm here. Well, but Peter, that ain't fair. You almost sunk. But Peter, I'm here. Well, that don't count. No, yes, it does. I walked the water, and I got halfway or 1/3 of the way, whatever way or however distance I was from Jesus. He bid me come, and I came as I was, and I had faith until I looked around and started evaluating the process, and I started sinking. But he saved me. But he saved me in the midst of my crises. I am still in the crises. The wind is still blowing. And then he helped me to navigate me walking back over the waters in which he told me to come. So he lets me get back into my process and walk on top of the waters with him back to the boat in the midst of the storm. See, we want the storm to stop because we met Jesus and he touched us and lifted us up. Jesus said, no, I touched you and lifted you up, only for you to complete the process in the midst of your storm. So when you navigate your storm back into your boat with me, then everything is going to cease. Wow, 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 wow. Isn't that something? That's something we have to learn, how that when we straight out and God said, come. As I said in English, it says, come, came, come. I came. In the midst of me coming, I came. And in reflection, in my coming, I came. But while I was coming, in my cameness, quote unquote, if I could use that word and stretch it a little bit, I had some doubt hit me, and I kind of fell a little bit, but he picked me up and saved me. I cried out, Lord, save me. He saved me in the midst of the storm, and then kept the storm going, because he wanted me to see that what I evaluated that overwhelmed me, that caused me doubt, I'm going to give you strength enough, since you went there to evaluate the wind, since you went there to evaluate the situation, and since the evaluation of the situation had you in despair, I'm going to strengthen you now to keep the evaluation of your situation, and then I'm going to let you win in the midst of your evaluation and still be in your storm. I'll keep you in the storm, let you see how violent the storm is, and still let you walk the water in the midst of your storm to get you back into the boat before I cool it down, because I got to have you a testimony. You got to win. In the midst of fear and doubt, I give you power. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Fear affects your power. Fear affects the love of what you do, and your sound mind, the thinking process, the strategic nomenclatures, and all the kinds of things that strategically in your mind you need to put together because you love it, because God gives you power in the midst of the situation. In the midst of the storm, Peter had enough power to navigate, to get out the boat. When the boat was rocking, he had power enough to get out the boat. The love of being on the waters compelled him to walk on them. If he thought he could navigate that, signs, wonders, and miracles. In the midst of signs, wonders, and miracles, sometimes our evaluation of who we are gets in the way, and we lose our focus and go off target. But Jesus is there to catch us and say, okay, get back on target. Now that you're back on target, let's complete the process. I'm talking to somebody today. God said you can complete the process because, lo, I'm with you always. I've got you now by the hand. In the midst of your process, I have you. We're going to complete this process. And guess what? In the completion of the process, you're going to have the experience of walking on the water, because I'm not going to deny you the experience of me saying, come on the water. We're going to get back to the boat. It didn't say, and Jesus picked Peter up and carried him in his strong arms back to the boat. It didn't say, and Jesus threw a life jacket to Peter and said, now you pedal, do the dog pedal in the water, and you swim a little bit while I walk and pull you along. Catch the line. And no. Stand up in the midst of the struggle. Stand up in the midst of the storm. Stand up in the midst of the chaos and walk the waters of the storm back to the boat. Somebody, God is challenging you to get up. It said, and he began to sink, and it said he sunk. God ain't gonna let you sink. Yeah, you may be beginning to sink. You may be in sink mode, but you have not sunk. There's a difference between sunk. You said sink, sunk. He sunk. No, the testimony is not going to be you sunk. The testimony was you started to sink. You was sinking, but you didn't get sunk because the hand of God picked you up in the midst of your sinking, because he would not allow a testimony of sunk in your life. No testimony of sunk. Testimony of sinking. But the master of the sea heard my despairing cries. That's the song. And from the waters lifted me, now safe in my love lifted me. He didn't lift me. I didn't sunk. There's no sunk in navigating and trusting the experience. Some sinking, from sinking sand, he lifted me. From shades of night to plains of light, oh, praise his name, he lifted me. That's one of them hymns of the church. See, hymns teach doctrine. So now what? What? No. I'm going to lift you up out of your sinking. And then together we going to navigate what had you sinking. And you're going to walk over and continue to walk through your storm back. And then you're going to navigate and getting back in your boat while you was in the storm. When I first met you on the storm, within the storm, struggling to obey me to go to the other side. So we're going to go through this experience. We're going to get back in the boat. Then we're going to quiet the wind. And then we're going to continue on to your assignment. I said, meet me on the other side. So we going to meet on the other side. We still going to the other side. You need to tell yourself, I don't care what I'm going through. I don't care what storm I'm in. I don't care what the storyline is. I'm going to the other side because I have been commanded to go. Within the command is all sufficiencies. Within Christ's command are all the sufficiencies to sustain and maintain the command. The maintenance of the command is in the obedience to the command. And when there's a loss of focus because of the command, a cry out to God as a result activates the maintenance support systems needed to stabilize you to be obedient to the end results of the command. Can we stay the process? Can you stay the process? That was one thing. There was a couple other things I saw in this text with Jesus, and we looked at it in different kinds of ways. One was that we looked at, there were three situations that Matthew brings out that the commentary shows us. Number one, the narrative highlights the disciples' response to Jesus' command. They immediately gets into the boat and head over to the other side of the sea. They didn't say, well, where you coming? How you coming? Sometimes when God gives us a command, we want to get so detailed before we start the process. No. Well, I need to know when, where, how. When you told me to go with Hamo, who gonna be there when I get there? How? No. Obedience to the command without having a clear, well, I'm like this. I research everything before I do it. I research. No, that's your problem. Obey the command and start the process, and then trust the process. Number one. Number two, second, the text gives a implied warning that pride can pull a person away from God's purpose. Now, Jesus could have had pride. No, he just fed 5,000 men besides women and children with a sandwich, a couple of sandwiches. He could have been proud. The people wanted him. They thronged him. I haven't thought about it, because when I read in the text, this is what really got me. In the text, it says, verse 22 of chapter 14, it said, and straightway, that means immediately, Jesus constrained his disciples. He constrained them. Get up and get up out of here. To get into a ship and go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into the mountains to pray. When do you send the multitudes away to pray? He wasn't caught up in himself where the blind keep coming, the lame keep coming. Oh, this revival was supposed to be for 5 days and it gone for a month. You burn out too. The poor you have with you always. We can always do ministry. Jesus says, and then sometimes God uses us in a kind of a way. We get the big head, we get pride, and we're going to keep on doing. No. Jesus said, you know what? I could stay here all night, and the more I heal, the more yet to be healed. The more I intercede, more yet. But look, I need some time now. I need some solitude time. I need some solitude time. I need some time with my Father to pray. And I need to get alone. So I got to send these people away. Pastor, apostle, bishop, man of God, woman of God, and they keep coming. They was packed out. How do you leave a packed out house and send the packed out house home and say no more miracles and signs and wonders tonight? But y'all go home. I got some other things to do. People will burn you out. Sometimes you got to make a decision that enough is enough at this point. Because I need some R&R time. I need to revive, resource myself. I need to pray. I need to come aside. In fact, I need to go up in the mountains, get away from all this stuff. Second, so the text gives us a warning. And so rather than give in to the people, Jesus, come on now. Come on, Jesus. One more. Okay, I take one more. So, one more in the line. No, cut the line off. No, one more. So one more. Oh, but wait a minute. Hold on. Just one more. And you keep one more and one more and more and one more. And you never cut it out. You keep on going, beating it. And so here, Jesus obeys, and he clearly understands that he needs to retreat into a solitary place, regardless of what the people say. Sometimes God uses you, ordains certain things in your life. You have certain accomplishments, and instead of understanding that in the midst of your accomplishments, the reason why you did accomplish what you accomplished is because the price you had to pay and the things you had to do to get there. Now, once you're there, you stop praying, you stop seeking God, you stop having your solitude moments. So what happens is, ultimately, what happens? You decide to allow the admiration of people celebrating your gift, talents, and graces to swell your head, and at that point, being overcome by the sin of pride, you lose your points. You lose your process. And see, when you lose your process and your time, when you allow people to give you an alternate reason to obey God, an alternate reason to do what you need to do, what happens is you understand all movements are clearly unauthorized. Unauthorized movements, any movements that God didn't tell you to do, is unauthorized. And God want to know, when you get to that place, what you here for? That's the Elijah situation. God told him to move, go to the brook Cherith, go to the brook. Stayed there. God said, now I want you to move, go to Zarephath. Then God said, okay, I want you to move, go see Ahab. But when Jezebel came after him, God didn't tell him to move. He ran. He moved. Situation, circumstance, he moved. Got caught up in his move, suicide ideation. Left his servant somewhere else. We leave off people that support us somewhere else. And he goes a day's journey in depression to the mount. And Jesus says, the word of the Lord, God speaking, say, what you doing here? What doest thou here, Elijah? What you doing here? This is an unauthorized move. But in the midst of sometime us doing unauthorized moves, God meets us anyway. Thank God for Jesus. As we leave today from this, remember, any move that takes you out of pocket, that takes you out of focus, is an unauthorized move by God. But you got to call. So some of us are caught up in unauthorized moves. We are sinking away from our purpose destiny because we engaged ourselves in unauthorized moves. So we need to call out, help, I'm sinking. Don't sink, don't sunk. I can't sink. I can't say, what happened to Branson? He sunk. He sunk. No, lift me up in the midst of my sinking. Help me get back on course to see who you are, and then walk me back on the waters, back to navigate the boat. Then the peace comes. So the question of doubt, the question of a lack of faith, little faith. See, little faith has within it great experiences. He said, oh, ye of little faith, why did you doubt? You had little faith, but even if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, be thou removed. So a little faith will get you a long way. But it's about, but the little faith that we have has within it doubt that comes in to take what was great to make it little, but yet don't deny that faith was there. So why are we doubting? What is it? How do we allow the circumstances, the evaluation of our circumstances, to bring doubt in our minds when God has allowed us to navigate through the circumstances and demonstrate his power and his miracles? Well, my time is up. My time is up. This has been your host, Apostle Dr. Sylvester Paul Brinson. Oh, share. Hit the share button. Hit the share button before we go off. Let somebody get the tail end of this. Hit the share button. Hit the share. Hit the share button. Yeah, share. Hit the share button. Connect some people. Connect them. This has been your host. This has been the Brinson Connection. Your host, Apostle Dr. Sylvester Paul Brinson III. Thank you for sharing with us this day. Every Wednesday, Chicago, USA time, Central Standard Time at 2:00. Meet us here every Wednesday from 2 to 3 Central Standard Time with me, all of my brothers and sisters and Facebook family all over the world. If you miss us in that hour, catch us on our timeline. We'll leave it on the timeline. If you miss it there, go to YouTube and type in Dr. Sylvester Paul Brinson III. Subscribe. Thank you all. My subscriptions are going up, but I need more subscribers. Get on there and subscribe. Go to YouTube, type in Dr. Sylvester Paul Brinson III. We have well over 150 teachings. This is only one. Go on there. Go on there, subscribe, get your friends. Let's take the month of June and July and get in there and subscribe. Let's build our subscription up and subscribe to our channel. Subscribe to the channel. You there on Twitter. Thank God for you as well. So until next time, remember, God will help you navigate in your crises, give you a better attitude, even though your aptitude has told you that your crisis is phenomenal. But when you evaluate your crisis, don't get stuck in the evaluation and lose your process. Until next time, this has been your host, Apostle Dr. Sylvester Paul Brinson III, Dean and host of the Brinson Connection. God bless you.